Leon Bridges, Gold Digger's Sound, album review, let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here to chat about this latest from Leon Bridges, Atlanta-based soul singer, one that personally I've always had a bit of a soft spot for. Around the time of his Coming Home debut album, a lot of people had their eyes glued to him, myself included. To this day, I just cannot say no to tracks like Coming Home, the title track, as well as Smooth Sailing. I think they're just great singles. And yes, he did have this throwback soul R&B sound. Any fan of R&B and soul from the late 60s and early 70s, this would absolutely be your jam. It wasn't for everybody though. I understand that and I respect it. However, with his follow-up album, Good Thing, Leon really brought things a little bit more modern. And to be honest, he did so pretty solidly as well. There was still that vintage soul sound at the core of this album, but the production was much more modern. He also brought in elements of funk and put out great singles like Beyond and Bad Bad News, which ended up being one of my favorite singles of the year. There was also that really great, smoky, soulful EP that he put out last year with Karangbin. A lot of people hated on this EP. I thought it was one of the better ones of the year. I loved them playing off each other. Now Leon is back with some singles that sound even more modern than ever, to be perfectly honest, but that's not a bad thing. Let's chat about this album. This album starts off with Born Again featuring the awesome Robert Glasper, and this is a great start. It just has this quiet intensity to it, and Leon's vocals are just so smooth. Something about this track just makes me freaking melt. It is classy, and him and Robert Glasper just make magic together. And I've always been a fan of Glasper's playing, this included. This is awesome. This is the sort of modern sound that I feel like Leon could take on, and I wouldn't worry about him in the future, and that's a really great sign. I genuinely love this. As a matter of fact, a lot of this album is, once again, much like his first two albums, really solid. It is more modern, but it still shows that Leon is sticking to his roots and continuing to carve out his own little unique niche. I've enjoyed Motorbike for a while as well. I do love the creeping pace of this track. And it's real smooth, and I don't know what it is. It might be the themes of motorbikes or being on the road, but this just makes me want to just get out into the world and see the world with my friends. It's just a fantastic single all around. I love the Twilight production. And I feel like Steam really sums up the album. First off, this track is good enough to be a single. Might be the best track here. It is so smooth. It is so steamy, no pun intended. I love the funky bass lick, just how groovy this is. It's really sexy too. Backing vocals on the hook also. Yes, please. This all around is what I'm talking about, and this sums up what I feel like Leon's sound should be right now. It's modern, it's funky, it's steamy, but it also has those nods to classic R&B and soul. Now, Why Don't You Touch Me is probably the most modern sounding track here, and I'll be perfectly honest, it took a while to grow on me, it did. But for a ballad, yeah, hell yeah, this works. Leon's vocals here are actually pretty incredible. Now, Leon does try a lot of different sounds on this album, and I'll be honest, some of them have me worrying about his future. Take, for example, Magnolias. We get a lot of awkward tracks like this on here. It's just so flavorless and it's so tame, and this kind of sums up what I feel like just rubs me the wrong way about a lot, and I mean a lot, of modern R&B. This just sounds like Leon's trying so hard to rip off, like, I don't know, Nostalgia Ultra era Frank Ocean. And sure enough, it's even more agitating. It's moments like this that I hear him on this very glossy production, and I really wish he would take it down a peg. His vocals are fine, the production is meh, but there's just such a disconnect here. And I have a lot of the same feelings about Blue Messes as a finale. Listen, Leon's vocal performance on this track, it is great. And you know what? The instrumental is actually not that bad either, but why is there once again such a wild disconnect on this track? Nothing ever comes together. This is never really a vibe. But like I said, Leon changes things up on this album just enough to keep himself sounding somewhat fresh, which with his throwback style, it's tough, but he does pull it off. Details is another very steamy jam, a really good one. And I mean, it is steamy as hell, but really tasteful. Leon handles this really well. I love the laid-back horns here that remind me of like Voodoo era D'Angelo and the funky bass riff. It's just a great medium, once again, of a little something old, a little something new, and just very good sound for Leon. And personally, I thought I was going to hate Sweeter featuring Terrence Martin, but I don't. Like, when I heard that super hip beat start off this track, I wanted to throw something at the wall. But his performance on this track is staggering, and the jazzy section, yes, please. And Don't Worry featuring Ink is pretty great as well. And this is the longest track here by far. I didn't know what to make of it. It's very psychedelic in parts. It really calls back to that Texas Sun EP. But between the steamy vibes and the soothing backing vocals of Ink, I think there's a winning formula once again. Like I said, over 6 minutes long. This is the longest track here, and that might not be your thing, but I think Leon gets into a pretty decent rhythm. So I think, once again, much like Leon's first two albums, this is a very good album. It's nothing, mind-boggling. It's nothing genre-defining. It's nothing that's going to shake things up, but it's a very, very good album overall. This is his most modern-sounding album, which I figured it would be, but he still has his nods to throwback R&B and soul on here, and I think it's a pretty good balance. But he still worries me, though. Leon still worries me sometimes, because when this album is bad, it makes me want to, put my head through a wall bad. There's a lot to love here, but I'm still waiting to be absolutely dazzled from start to finish from Leon Bridges, but that's just me. I'm feeling a very decent 7 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.